All right, everybody, thanks for being here. Sorry we're starting a little bit late. We had a administrative meeting thanks to our town attorney, who was kind enough to advise us on the things that we're not going to do wrong. So we appreciate you doing that, Jay. Thank you again for the reminder, and it's nice to have your prowess here, and heck, we barely had to pay you for it, and we go to MML and pay to watch you do that. Right, so it's great to have you here. We'll get more cheap free sessions from you as soon as we, in the future.
We're turning into a master class, by the way.
That's right. We're here tonight. Thank you. It's February 6th. It's a Monday night. It's about 7:15. All the commissioners here are in place, as well as Town Attorney Jay Gullo, Town Manager Wade Yost. Town Assistant Manager Niles is here. That's amazing. And also Town Engineer John Strong. Thanks to everybody for being here. Jeff, we'd like to get started with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I love it. Spin around. I know, yeah. Anyway, great. Thank you for that, Jeff. I really appreciate it. Do you have any announcements to get us started?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Very good. And I know we'll have committee reports in just a minute. Sarah?
Yeah, last night, the Well hosted their first LGBTQ community gathering. I think it's the first of its kind in Poolesville ever. And it was well attended. It was a great event. Hoping to see many more events like that in the future. Good community building.
Great. Thank you. Anything else?
No, that's
Good
it.
stuff. Martin?
Yeah. So Jeff and I were also at the Well last night, just to show support, and Sarah covered it. It was a good event. One thing I was going to talk about, I had breakfast with Brooks Martin the other day, and he is a big technology guy and knows all this technology stuff, and he's offered to help the town with the website for free and some other stuff. And so Wade and I are going to meet via Zoom, and I'm just going to do the introduction and then hand it off to Brooks, and Wade can handle it themselves. But he has some good ideas, and I think that, Wade can take or leave whatever he wants, and I'm out of it obviously, but so I just want to make you guys aware of that he has offered to help, and he has the town's best interest. He has no agenda. He's not trying to make money or anything. So those are the announcements I have.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, awesome. And Wade, do you have something set up for him? You and Niles already set up meeting-wise?
Thursday, we're going to do that, yes.
This Thursday coming up? Great. Looking forward to seeing what we get out of that. Jeff?
I do. I have a couple things, Jim. So the fire station, the Upper Montgomery County Volunteer Fire Department, is having a bull and oyster roast. And this is coming up on Friday, February 17th. There will be two seatings, one at 6:30 till 7:45, the second one from 8 p.m. until 9:15. The delicious food will be cooked by the firefighters and helpers. It will be roast beef, fried or raw oysters, green beans, parsley potatoes, roll, and hot or cold beverages. You can call for ticket information. Call the information line. I'll give you the number in a moment. Between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. The number is 301-972-8719. So it'll be a fabulous event. The fire station has had bull and oyster roasts in years past, and it was very popular, and the public has been asking us when we're going to do it again, and now we are finally. The cost is $40 for an adult and $25 for a child under 12, I guess it is. Yeah. Very good. So that's one thing. And as Sarah and Martin mentioned, I attended, along with Sarah and Martin, the gathering at the Well on Sunday, February 6th, yesterday. It's a community wellness center, a space for self-exploration, healing, and restoration, a meeting place for communities of all kinds. The Well draws resources from the wisdom and experience of their practitioners and teachers, as well as the beauty of Montgomery County Agricultural Reserve. The Well is located actually just on Fisher Avenue down here in the historic downtown district of Poolesville. We offer a space for community gatherings, groups, and works. If you're looking for a space, please contact the Well. And I met Sam Cooper, he's the director, And I encouraged Mr. Cooper, to consider submitting a grant request to the town. And he noted that the space is mostly empty, which was pretty clear, it was mostly empty, a few chairs to the side, and that they would be very appreciative of any funding to purchase equipment for their meditation sessions. That's that one. Just a few more. The Poolsville seniors, they have quite a lot going on. They are doing an auction, an online auction, art and jewelry available for viewing at the Heart and Soul Gala. That's, the Heart and Soul Gala is on February the 11th. I already have my tickets. And they're going to be auctioning golf, vacation ideas, pickleball lessons and equipment, gift cards, local art, and jewelry. So take a look at that. There's also a history of the Boyd's Negro School going to be offered by Kenny Scholes, and that's on February the 9th at 7 p.m. So please register on the Poolsville Seniors website for that. Additionally, Kenny Scholes will also be offering the historic ag reserve properties that he's done several times before. That's on February the 16th at 7 p.m. Also, if you wish to support the Poolsville Seniors Club, which I hope you do, they have an account at Amazon Smile. You've probably heard of that, where you go to a particular link, you can make your purchases. It's all the same price, there's no upcharge or anything. And then the Poolsville seniors get a little bit of a rebate when you use their link to go purchasing, to go shopping on Amazon. So take a look at that as well. Now, I already mentioned the Heart and Soul Gala by the Poolsville seniors, and that's coming up, and they're looking for volunteers. So if you wish to be a volunteer at that event to help set up and all the different things that need to be taken care of, you can go on their website and click on the link that says sign up here, and then I'm sure all of your assistance will be greatly appreciated. I think that is it. So that's all of my announcements.
Since you're still there, Jeff, why don't you go ahead and start with the Parks Board for our next go-around?
Okay, I'll have to find my notes on that.
You want me to go to Ed first?
Yeah, go ahead. 'Cause
All right, Martin's ready. Hang on, Martin's just ready to go. We'll get you next, Ed. Go ahead.
All right, so the Planning Commission meets a week from Wednesday. I've updated you since our last meeting. The last commission meeting was right after the Planning Commission meeting. So far on the agenda, all I know of is a comprehensive plan. We've received Chapter 3 of the comprehensive plan for review and feedback, and we will be discussing that, and we're just working through it. It's coming along.
I asked the usual question, any kind of a timeline?
I think I gave you a timeline a while back, but it looks like the second draft should be ready, the final product should be ready in May or June is the goal. And that could slip, but
That's okay.
That's the goal.
Hopefully we'll all still be here.
you have something, Niles?
Just to add on to that.
Yeah.
Just to say that we'll also have the water allocation, information
Oh,
about water
good.
allocation discussion that we're going to discuss. And the Sustainable Poolsville will also want to comment on comprehensive.
Okay.
So that will be on there as well.
Good deal.
Very good. Is that it for you, Martin?
That is it.
I did find
Thanks.
my notes.
I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Ed? Thanks.
All right, sure. I did find an announcement that I'd overlooked, and thank you, Link, for sharing that with me. On the 18th of February, there's going to be a gathering at the Old Martinsburg Church on Whites Ferry Road. It's about 4 miles out of town to help clear a cemetery that was established back in the 1800s by freed blacks and former slaves who built the original Martinsburg Church. And so you'll have Kenny Scholes, Chuck Copeland. I'll be up there. My son will be up there. There'll be other volunteers. Link will be there. And this is going to be, this is the 18th. The 18th, that's a Saturday. And let's see here, we're going to be gathering at 9 a.m. at the old school for coffee and donuts and discussion about the old church and the cemetery. So Chuck's going to lead that discussion, but it'll be a good event. And then another announcement I'll share is, if you didn't get a chance to read the monocle, there's some really neat information. Article Randy wrote that talked about the free black who were in the Union part, who fought for the Union in the Civil War, and just showing some of that history is really good to see, as we celebrate Black History Month. All right, that's my announcement.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Ed. Appreciate
No
that.
problem, man.
Sarah, if you could go ahead.
Report for the Fair Access Committee. Let's see, last week, Ed and I, no, Ed, you weren't able to make it, the My MC Media, you weren't there.
No, I was at the.
Yeah, you were at the other thing going on. But they were doing interviews with some of our community business owners, and I was there, and Link was there, on a documentary that they're working on related to White's Ferry. So we're continuing to make sure that White's Ferry stays in the news and that we are pushing that forward. I'm going to finish giving my report and then maybe give the time over to Ed or Jim to talk about the
White's
phone
Ferry
call, the White's Ferry update. Last meeting, let's see, Link had, and Jim were in a meeting with Marilyn Balcom this last week, and that's part of our efforts to meet with each of the council members to make sure that we are either maintaining or developing relationships with all of our council members. They talked about the high school. We've got the 8 million that is in the budget for this year. I think we have an agreement on the gym. The wellness center, while it doesn't have money in the budget for our wellness center, it has money in the budget for the planning for our wellness center. Marilyn's going to help us actually secure the funding for the wellness center itself. Help follow up with that. Regarding the community center, we were presenting a great argument to Maryland for getting funding in this next fiscal year, and she was supportive of that. Working with WUMCO to identify needs and what needs to be included in that community center. We also talked to her about the need for some specific research on economic development in the agricultural reserve. There's no data on, for example, agritourism. So she's agreed to help us push that forward so we can get some good data to make decisions with. Talked about the pool over the bubble, again, something that she's going to help us dig into the exact costing out and how to get it into the budget. And on Tuesday, Link is going to be testifying for the county capital spending hearing. I think that's at 7:30? 7:30-ish. So continuing to push some things forward, and I will turn the time over to, I don't know which one of you wants to talk about the White's Ferry call.
I'll do it.
Okay,
So,
Great,
Thank you
thanks.
for that. Is
Mhm.
and that's
That's it, thank
Yep,
you.
that's it.
Very good. So go ahead and Jeff, finish up, and then I'll kick it back over, and we'll talk about White's Ferry.
Okay, thanks,
Might
Jim.
as well make it a cliffhanger.
We haven't been waiting long enough.
That's right.
So actually, a couple of noteworthy points. So actually, the meeting for the Parks Board is on the 8th, so what's today? Yeah. Anyway, a couple of things. I mean, I'm borrowing heavily from Niles, so thanks, Niles. Of course, I talked about the bouldering park last time, and at the January 4th Parks Board meeting, the board decided the location would be Dillingham Park. Now, of course, we don't have any funding for that. It's just an idea so far. More information needs to be provided in order to really determine the scope of the big project. We also, one of the gentlemen I know for the fire station, Frank Velez, he was a bouldering park instructor, and he's also attached to two different bouldering park clubs, and they're Potomac Appalachian Trail Club, the mountaineering section, and the American Alpine Club in the Washington, D.C. chapter. And we did receive, which was forwarded to the Parks Board members, a letter of support from the American Alpine Club, the Washington, D.C. chapter. So we have asked them if they could help us, because none of us are bouldering park experts. Well, Frank is, but the rest of us are not. If they could help us with specifications on what might be a good kind of first start for Poolsville's bouldering park. Now, of course, none of the funding has been approved yet. Also, we talked about the town is close to taking over responsibility for Westerly Grove, and the park there is the Westerly Grove Tot Lot. So, the Parks Board is discussing naming possibilities for that park, and there is a naming policy that, of course, we will follow. And there are already some suggestions at that. At the January 4th, the board discussed getting input, community input at the March meeting in preparation for discussion on the scope of the project for Stevens Park's lights. Also, I believe I brought the list of priorities to a previous commissioner meeting regarding the budget priorities from the Parks Board. And again, at the January 4th Parks Board meeting, previous to that, we prioritized the requests from the Parks Board up to the commissioners so that the commissioners could, and Wade could help us get these things into the budget. So Stevens Park pickleball court, and that's already really in progress. The updated wiring for Wayland Commons, which we talked about at the last meeting, I'm pretty sure. Also, the Helmus Park bathroom remodeling. And I understand there's bids being received right now, so yeah, thank you. I just mentioned the lights at Stevens Park. The basketball upgrade at Helmos Park, that's going to involve resurfacing, so it's kind of a big deal. And new basketball courts that are actually in concrete instead of in dirt. So that'll be, and also the skate park redesign. So we're trying to do two things at once at Dillingham, Dr. Dillingham Park. One of them is of course, the skate park redesign. That's where the kids go do the, what's that called? Yeah, skateboarding, thanks, yeah. Yeah, and along with that would be the location for the bouldering park. So we already mentioned that. And then last on our list of priorities was the pickleball court at Elgin Park. So the town staff is researching the possibility for grants for the pickleballs. And also, we did talk about at a previous meeting the possibility for AEDs, automated electronic defibrillators. So if a person, requires CPR, and AED is, of course, an important instrument to have nearby. And I believe I talked to you before about it. So there's the possibility of getting AEDs that can be installed outdoors. And they would be in a weatherproof box, plus also, if someone were to take it, it automatically phones the police. Automatically phone, I guess 911, I'm not sure, 911, sir. So hopefully nobody would tamper with it unless it's really needed. So, yeah, that's it. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All good. So this is called my zigzag method. You know, it's here, back over there, back over here, back. Okay, so Ed, you're back at Sustainable
So
Pools.
Jeff, you're Zig, I'm Zag, and
There
I'm
you
going
go.
to zag you with Sustainable Pools.
Thank you, guys. It's dizzying.
All right, so we had a few things that we discussed at our last meeting. One of those things, we had public comment that raised concern, the resident raised concern about the shredded tires, and they're going to be talking with the parks. They've been talking with you, so they
Yes,
share with
yes.
Sustainable Poolsville. They'll continue to talk with you. I know,
Definitely,
Wade,
yes.
that you all are working on that piece. We'll be having an opening for the committee, and so Don will follow the proper channels, and we'll talk with you about that new opening with someone stepping off of the committee for Sustainable Poolsville. So we'll let you handle that. The Sustainable Poolsville Committee would like to be a part of discussions that looks at the recycling component of the new, that RFP that will happen when we look at the new trash company. And see here, and then you've heard me talk about Pick It Up Poolsville in the past, and so once the weather gets warm somewhere in the spring, they're going to renew their efforts for this Pick It Up Poolsville, which is really just a campaign for people to help clean up around their area. And then, other than that would cover it. The rest can wait till the next one.
Okay. Good stuff. So just to amplify a little bit what my comrade over here said, Sarah, about fair access and White's Ferry, we've actually prepared the Fair Access Committee. Link, who is our master writer, wrote a very beautiful document that has been sent out to all of our county council members, our delegates, et cetera, that outline the basic goals of the Fair Access Committee. So the reason I'm bringing it up is it's a wonderful document. If you want to know what the Fair Access Committee is working on in detail, I mean, it was vetted out by all of us, including several committees. Email me or email Link if you have it, or email Town Hall, and we'll also figure out a way to get it posted, because it's a great document. It's a living document. We change it. But it's what we've done Remember, we have 11 council members now. Part of the main role of the Fair Access Committee is advocacy, so we're dealing with new council members. We're dealing with old council members that we want to care more about what we do. We've got this living document that we've put in their hands, and we want them to be very well versed in it. So we are meeting with the council members individually to make sure that not only have they read it, but they understand it and they're going to take action in the best possible way for us. We did that just recently with Marilyn Balcom. She's our own district council member. We've been in some meetings lately, and I'm going to be generous about this, where we know that some of the council members don't have a clue what we're up to. So we're going to be bringing those council members in as well, and in addition to giving them the documents so they're up to speed on everything, but they're also, that we're going to have some Q&A, and they're at large, so they do represent us, and we want them to be well-versed in what the Fair Access Committee, Town of Poolesville, everything that we're up here. It's the only way we need those votes. There's 11 council members. We got to have 6 votes on everything that's important to us. So the advocacy is out there in front. Regarding White's Ferry, so we had a phone call. There was 32 people on the phone call. Ed was on it, I believe. I'm not sure if anybody else was. I didn't scroll down because there was just so many people there. A lot of them were observers listening in on the conversation. The conversation about White's Ferry was being led basically, again, by David Fraser Hidalgo, who's been our champion on this thing 2 years, 2 months into it. He's keeping the flame alive along with the Fair Access Committee. He led the conversation, but inside the meeting room was everybody that's important. Several council members, all of our delegates, members of the DOT that are involved with it. Of course, there wasn't Chuck Kuhn or the people from the other side. They weren't on the call, but that's okay. And we all talked, and we got updates, and we're supposed to kind of keep it on the lowdown, but what it comes down to is our DOT is negotiating and is in the middle of negotiations, and as we've all talked about inside the committee, our county executive is involved and supposedly involved on a daily basis on this. So again, I know this probably sounds wash, rinse, and repeat. It keeps happening, and we still don't have a result. And I close every meeting off with my own personal clicker. Okay, it's been two years, 2 weeks, 2 years now, coming up on 2 months. We're not letting up on it. It's in fact we get frustrated and we vent to each other, and then we just grind back down and get into action mode. They're paying attention. They're listening. We're not letting up the pressure. There are active negotiations going on. We're keeping our fingers crossed. But again, if we don't see something happening soon, look for Rally Part 2, and it'll have a new look to it. But we don't want to have to do that. We're tired of holding rallies. We want our elected officials to take the bull by the horns and solve this issue. Again, there's not one jurisdiction in Maryland, and certainly maybe not in the United States, where 2 private parties basically, in effect, put up a roadblock between 2 public roads. So we're going to get a solution on this. And the gist of the phone call was peppering the folks that are doing the negotiation and trying to prod them along. Don't talk about the things that we've already talked about a year and a half ago or way back when. Do take the strategies that are available right now and put it to bed. So if anybody in the audience wants to talk about White's Ferry, this is your moment to talk about it. You can wait till public forum, or I'm here now. If you have a question, I'm happy to answer it. If you're frustrated just like we are, you can just raise your hand right now. That's fine. Anybody? Oh, that's one already? Okay, good. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was curious, is it Montgomery County Department of Transportation or a state? And who are they negotiating with?
It's Montgomery County.
Okay.
And it is, Montgomery County is negotiating with both Loudoun County as well as the private property owners.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anything? Any suggestions? All right, you guys. Anyway, we're not letting up on that at all, and that's really the end of my announcements. Public comment time. We'll get to grants and everything else in a minute. Anybody have any public comment? Anybody signed up? Bailiff? Anybody? Nobody over there? Thank you, John. Appreciate it. All right, very good. No public comments. Approval of the minutes. We had a meeting on January 17th, 2023. All the commissioners were there. Do we have a motion for approval of the minutes?
Sure, I motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion by Ed, second by Martin. Do we have any other comments on the minutes? None? All those in favor of approving the minutes for January 17th, 2023, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Minutes have been approved. Old business. I know this is going to sound like a familiar refrain. Ordinance number 224, backyard chickens.
We've talked about this before.
There's been some discussion. So, quick piece of background. As you guys know, this is something that's been discussed on Facebook, every public forum, neighbor to neighbor, Dollar General, Cugini's, up and down Fisher Avenue. I appreciate all the discourse. Our planning commission did a nice job of having conversations about us. Our town attorney even lectured us in the meeting before this about how we kind of did it backwards, but that was all in an effort to try and get public opinion on it. Sorry, Jay. But of course, we did it legally, and that's the most important part. And we do appreciate all of the conversations that we had with our residents and all the input that we had, both through all the means that people have ways to comment. So it's been a good process, and I'll tell you, it's one of the most vetted out things we've ever talked about. I'm going to turn it over to these guys in just a minute, but the commissioners know I sent a synopsis today, a summary of what we've been talking about. It may not be what everybody agrees on, but it was something that again was a synopsis of and potentially a compromise to this thing. Again, we didn't discuss this in private. It was just put out there as talking points for tonight's meeting. Men, go ahead. I know you're chomping at the bit.
No, it's fairly simple. We just took the information and all the decisions that were, agreed upon at the last meeting and wrapped it into the ordinance. The basic facts are that we're going to allow 6 chickens to be kept, that no roosters are allowed. A chicken coop is going to be required. There's going to be a permitting process for that. There's specific sizes that the coop has to be, as well as the run area per square foot per bird, depending on how many birds you have. Maximum setbacks, 15 foot from property lines. Coops must be a minimum of 100 foot from a dwelling, very similar to what the county does. Coops must be in the backyard, of course, and backyard chicken keeper certificate or equivalent shall be required from the applicant upon submittal for the permit. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. It wasn't allowed in several zones, PTR2 and PRD. They're already covered under another agricultural use ordinance, so this really is just the three half acre, 3/4 acre, and 1/3 acre. Yep.
You have anything else you want to throw in there, buddy?
Just as far as the format goes, if you match this up with the prior one, it won't match because we've taken sections out that didn't apply anymore. So you have to read it for the text versions that it is.
Appreciate that, yeah. The last draft that we were working on, those have been removed and supplanted by different language.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Yep, no, I'm coming to you. So, just to be sure that everybody knows this, again, this is something that's been vetted through a bunch of different means. We came up with this compromise that feels more, and we still have to vote on this, obviously, but it feels more Poolesville-centric. And the part that I had in terms of, and that has been expressed through Jeff, but as well as all of our conversations, public conversations about this, was to make sure that we also addressed the enforcement issue as best we could. We addressed the concerns of the residents that expressly did not want to have chickens next door. We did the best that we could for them as well. And the compromise makes it so that it's not just every single person can just have chickens in their backyard, especially if it would be impactful on their neighbors in a negative way. So we've tried to address all of those concerns in this final compromised version of this that we will still be talking about here tonight. So the commissioners are welcome to talk about it. Jeff, I know that you've in the past given us some very good information on it and your thoughts, as well as representing the people that you talk to. So the floor is yours.
Well, the first thing was, I remember at the last meeting when we were going over some additional bullet points that we had all agreed to include that the chicken keeper permit, whatever it's going to be called, would have to provide a registration to the Maryland Department of Agriculture, I think it was, and that kind of disappeared.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, we talked about that. I spoke to Wade and Jay about it today, and we did talk about it. There's no question, but I don't think that was part of the compromise.
No.
And I think that we molded over, and we could still make it a part of a provision for tonight, but I think in the end, Jeff, you'll find that it may not be something that would be included in it.
Well, maybe I have a different recollection. And I guess we could watch the video again. But, yeah, that just seemed to have disappeared. It didn't have any resolution. And I do think we all kind of nodded for it. So that's one thing. Thing one. Here's thing two. Thing two. So I would also, again, like to express an opinion. And an alternative to the backyard chicken keeping was presented at the January 17th Commissioners meeting. The alternative, the Community Chicken Club, satisfies all of the perceived benefits, including animal care and responsibility, collection of eggs, and education for children regarding the care of farm animals. It was mentioned that residents prefer the convenience of their own backyard. In my opinion, equal opportunity trumps convenience. Also, at the recent MML, that's the Maryland Municipal League Conference in Annapolis, I attended a session on systemic inequities. The session focused on identifying and correcting systemic racism. However, the identifying and correcting unequal opportunities are applicable in other related situations. The revisions to Code 224 codify such an inequity. The revisions to Code 224 favor some residents and disfavor others. I do not believe that Poolsville has any existing regulation, policy, or code that codifies such an unfair practice. In summary, I urge the commissioners to vote no on Code 224 for the above reasons. I urge the commissioners to reconsider the alternative, which provides a fair opportunity to all Poolsville residents, not just those with big backyards. It's never too late to change course towards fairness.
Very good. Commissioners, care to debate on this? Conversation, comments on Jeff's?
I just bring up the same thing about, like, I mean, I guess you could call it inequity, but I mean, like, the example was given for a swimming pool. I mean, are we going to, like, outlaw swimming pools because some people don't have yards that are big enough? I mean, and you can go on and on from there. So I don't agree with that myself.
It was a hard cutoff. Okay, good. How about on this side? You caught me by surprise. All right, anything on this side from the commentaries, guys? Because I'll break this thing down for us in a minute.
Yeah, I feel like it's the same things I said last time. I agree with Martin. That was the point I brought up last time, is that people's size of their property often limits what they can do. Some people can have only external structures that are smaller size or don't have space for external structures. I don't see that as a systemic inequality. I wouldn't put that in that category. I think that's just the realities of what a home that a person can afford versus a home and a lot that someone else can afford. I think there are other things. There are systemic inequities that contribute to what people can afford, but the ordinance that we're talking about is not, in my opinion, the case of or an example of a systemic inequity. And like I said last time, I don't think people are asking for a community co-op. They're asking to have hens in their own backyards. So I feel like we are debating, or we are considering what people want by debating this particular ordinance. That's it.
Just going back to my thoughts on it, is that I think it's a good idea for those who are not in a position to be able to have backyard chickens if they don't have the land, the space in their backyard, or even if they have the space but they don't have the time. Mm-hmm. All right, but I also felt strongly that it shouldn't be something that the town manages, because then that becomes a whole nother piece that's really not for us to do when you're trying to decide whose turn is it to do whatever task that needs to be done. I like the concept, and I think it's good for those who can't do it, but when I think about those who said they would like to have their own chickens in their own backyard, then getting up at whatever time in the morning to go out and do the responsibilities that are necessary, I think folks should be provided that opportunity within those new regulations that we had discussed last time. So, yeah, that's where I am.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I just want to be very clear that I do not see the town managing anything other than the permitting process. as has been said many times before, Wade or Niles are not going to go peeking over fences to see if people are complying, right? Once they get the permit, I mean, it's kind of up to the neighbors to complain. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Wade. So I know I said it 10 times before, and I'll say it the 11th time, I don't think it's fair to put the burden on the neighbors.
So Jeff, to kind of wrap up the comments before we go to a vote on this thing, I share your concerns, and I have shared your concerns from the very beginning on this. I don't like the idea of something that's optional, like chickens, having the potential to turn neighbor against neighbor. We don't need more reasons for neighbors to be against neighbors. And at the same time, while listening to the amount of people that, literally it's been a 10-to-1 in favor of the folks that want to have chickens in their backyards. I think it's important, I'm not going to start calling Ed Mr. Guardrail, but I think we put the right guardrails in place I think we put the right guardrails in place to at least give this a go and see how this works. So I'm happy with the compromise that we came up with. Now, over to town staff. Jeff's got some concerns. Do these concerns have to be addressed with, or can we bring it to a vote as we stand right now with the amendment, the ordinance as proposed?
You can vote, and you could always have voted, so you can, if you don't want to negotiate this out further so that you could have complete consensus, you can do it by the numbers.
Right on. Motion, is there
I
a
make a
motion?
motion, we approve ordinance 224 as written.
Second it.
Motion and a second. Jeff, you can take and swing number 12 at this if you want to. I am keeping track. You'll let that happen with your vote? Yeah. All right, we have a motion and we have a second on this, and one of the most exciting things we've done in 2023. Everyone, thanks again for all the commentary. All those in favor of ordinance 224 as presented, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. The new chicken ordinance has been adopted. Thank you, everybody, and Jeff, especially thank you for your commentary on it. I appreciate it. You've made changes on this. All right, very good. Okay, so wow, the rest of it's all new business. So get ready now. Before we get into our grants, I just want to tell everybody the same thing that we've been saying in our other meetings. All of our grant requests are being considered. They're all being put into our budget that's coming up. We met today. Wade will talk a little bit more about our budget. Wade, Niles, and I talked. It's going to be an interesting year. The commissioners are going to have to make some strong decisions here. But what it comes down to is that all grant requests, as well as the park projects that you've talked about, including stuff, lifesavers like the AEDs, et cetera, they are all part of our budget process. So in taking in the grant requests, these are the front line, the community members that are proposing grants that will hopefully better the community. And I just want to let you know that every one of them will be considered. In fact, I've asked the guys to prepare a special list of what's been presented in the past, what's been presented this year, so that we can look at the grants individually when we go through our budget process. So be prepared for that when we meet, and we'll be setting a deadline to have our meeting in terms of our budget process coming up. It'll be a Saturday, and we'll talk about that later on in the meeting. So just heads up for that. And as said, Jeff, too, not to belabor it, but, the parks projects, there's some pretty big bucks things there that are proposed. And those, we will be talking about all those in the budget process, just like we will like for this swim team, just like we will for historic medley, et cetera. So without further ado, the swim team grant request, go ahead and swim team, swim on up here and stay in your lane. I don't have any more than, that's probably enough. Thanks for being here.
We've been doing commissioner stuff since 5:30, so we're a little
What's that? What's it?
3-pun limit.
Oh, the 3-pun, yeah, I'm at a 3-pun limit. That's it per grant request?
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Identify yourself and thank you for being here. Good seeing you.
Good, you start.
Adele Polson.
Everett Lee.
Jeff McCloskey. How are you?
Lay it on us. How much do you want, and what do you want it for?
Yeah, so Jeff McCloskey, I've been handling
Hi, Jeff.
sponsorship and fundraising for the team for this is my second year. Ever, just introduce your role, please, sorry.
Yeah, so I'm Everett Lee. I'm part of the Poolsville swim team. I'm a parent of a child that's a very avid swimmer.
Awesome.
He sells himself short. He's also our official announcer. He does really mean announcing. Adele Polson, I'm also part of the steering committee, B rep, and social committee chair, and yeah, and have
Way to go, guys.
2 great kids who love to swim. Yeah.
Thanks to all of you for your devotion and your volunteer organizational time. It is awesome, and we appreciate it.
Great, thank you. We want to build on our success from last year. We actually applied for a mini grant. Our biggest event of the year is actually our end of year awards banquet ice cream social. Covers, about 40% of our overall expenses. We have an annual budget of about $6,000 we spend, believe it or not. That is our single largest event that is community-based. It's held here locally. It involves all participants on the team, all families and friends. It's usually 3 generations, so you have grandparents attend as well too. And we try to use as many local resources as possible. We've purchased ice cream in town as well. So we've tried to keep it local. We'll have it at the Baptist Church this year. So a big shift was, being outside at the end of the summer. It's challenging with weather, temperature, and possible rain. So we've identified, that's why we're applying for a little bit more funding this year. Last year, we only applied to cover less than half of our funding. The rest of it would be done through our other sources like concession sales and other fundraising we do for the team. If we didn't receive all the funds, we'd have to just dedicate less towards future projects. We've identified some future projects which would be improving our PA system, purchasing more sun shelters, and just other things we need to operate the team, whether it be equipment or other items.
Great. Who has questions for these guys? Anybody? So the one thing, I'll say the same thing I say to all the grant proposals. The goal is to not use the taxpayers' money as your fundraiser. So we love the idea that it would go to an event and to recognition and to the use and enjoyment of our citizens. So that's whose money is we're dealing with. So we appreciate the fact that you're doing everything you can to stay local, provide the recognition, et cetera. So I'm sure that we'll take that into consideration at budget time when we're rolling through the numbers. So, and we appreciate that. We appreciate all the work you do.
Great.
Definitely, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, guys. And please stay in office until my granddaughter can start swimming. We appreciate it. We need your support.
Waiting for our bubble, thank you.
Oh, it's on the list. It's on the list. Hey, Link, we got these guys set to testify, right? Yeah. He looks like he is. All right, good. Come in, ask for money, and get signed up to testify at county council. Good job, guys. Way to go.
Gotta get that bubble.
Nice job, Link. Way to grab them. All right, very good. Yeah, the bubble's definitely on our list. So we appreciate your advocacy too. All right, historic medley, come on up, gang. Maureen, come on up. Jeff, you coming with?
She said she didn't want a partner, but I'll come.
All right, good. Come in, identify yourselves, and tell us who you are, and again, what you want.
They all know me.
Yeah.
Is that on? Yeah.
It'll get you.
Jim, I believe I sent you, and you sent to all the board members, and I sent to Wade, I described the proposal, right? And basically, every year, and I get the bigger thing I think that is, people say, well, it's great that Historic Medley District and other historic organizations, nonprofits, have these wonderful old buildings. But the only problem is, I always see it as an albatross around your neck, because you're going to have to maintain them, and you're going to have to repair them. The John Poole House was built in 67, and the Seneca Schoolhouse was built in 1863. Now, we do not use any of the funds that we have gotten we receive from the town for the schoolhouse. We take care of that. But this year, the old town hall will be 113 years old. It's a long time. So carrying with it the honor of having all these historic buildings, it's very expensive to maintain them. And any of you people, all of us who own buildings, the older they are, obviously, the more expensive it is to maintain them and to repair them. So Jim and Wade, actually, not Wade, Jim and Link met Knight and I a couple weeks ago over at the old town hall, just discussing, where HMD and the town is going, how we can work together. And I think we looked around, some of the projects, projects at the old town hall, and we all know, and there's many, many of them. And in the past, it was all a matter of funding, how much we can do or not do. So last week, I met with Mike Carrick. Now, Mike Carrick is from Seneca Services. He's over there in Montevideo Road. And he has done a lot of work for Knight Kiplinger. He does a lot of work for me at the Seneca Schoolhouse and all the work at the Old Town Hall and the John Poole House. So we went over the Old Town Hall inch by inch from upstairs to downstairs. I said, now, let's make a wish list. If we had, all the money in the world, what would have to be done here? So we started upstairs. And now last year, from the $25,000 you gave us, I used $10,000 just to repair, second time we repaired it, rust spots on the roof. And maintaining and repairing an old metal roof is very difficult. It's even hard to find people who have the expertise to do it anymore. So we looked at that, and now there's more damage on the right-hand side. And in the upstairs room, because of the leaks in the roof, there's a lot of water damage in the walls, in the closets. So all that has to be taken out. And then there's a number of windows in the front of the upstairs room that faces Fisher Avenue. And I don't know how, but there's a lot of the panes are broken. And I said to Mike, we can just repair them here, right? No. The problem is, because it's an old building, how it was set up, you're going to have to do the chinking of from the outside. And if you look out the outside, the little sidewalk there on the outside of the town hall facing Fisher Avenue, it's about this wide. So we're going to have to get a crane. We're going to have to get scaffolding because we're going to have to repair the windows from outside. Now, that's just one thing, but you're talking about $10,000, $12,000 to get all that equipment to do it. And that's just the upstairs. And then we looked at the vault, okay? The vault. We always have to be very careful when I have children there that they don't go in there, because if someone slams the door, you're going to die in there. We can't open the door. You have to blast it open. But that needs to be all done. The siding has to be come out, has to be replastered, and well, it's not even plastered. Mike and I couldn't even figure out what is behind. It wasn't wallpaper, something like that. Have to redo all that. Then there's still a lot of water damage on the ceiling from in the front room where you have meetings. The most difficult part was we went outside and looked at the outside of the building. And you don't call it stucco, but I call it like bumpy stucco. It's a siding there. And if you look at it, you can touch it almost, it'll just crack off. And for years and years, people let the ivy, that was pretty, crawl up the side of the building. You pull the siding off, it takes off whatever this masonry is. That should all be done. And then this is just a smaller thing, but it costs money. If you look at the windows on the first floor, because there was a bank, they have all the metal slats against them. So if you look in there, the windows, all the around the outside of the window pane, it has to be all regrouted, et cetera, and painted, but you can't take the metal sliding off. You're going to have to go in there with a little tiny brush and do all that. So if you're going to ask me, Jim, how much I want tonight, I'm not going to tell you because I don't know. If you gave me $100,000, I could spend it all. So I guess my main point in coming to you tonight is to ask the support of the commission, and we thank you so much for all the support you have given us, to look at the maintenance of especially the Old Town Hall and the John Poole House to help us. I mean, looking at it not, I want money this year, as an overall project. Let's look at, you can give us some money to maintain these buildings, because I think if I told you, Jim, that we're all in the same goal, to protect and preserve these buildings, which promotes so much the history of our little town here. And we can't do it ourselves. Now, every year, have applied for every single grant that's out there for COVID relief funds. Every year I got from Heritage Montgomery, I got from Arts and Humanities, I got about $10,000 or $20,000, but it doesn't go very far, and all the money you gave me. So I'm not coming here tonight to ask you for X amount. I'm just telling you, here are all the projects over there. There's $25,000, $50,000, $100,000 that I'd like to, over the years, to help the town, help us in any way you can. I don't know what your budget looks like tonight, but if you can see what you could give us to help us to achieve the goal for the benefit of the town. That's all I ask.
I think that's awesome, an awesome approach, and obviously, we're gonna talk about a consideration of a line item for
Yes.
specifically for Old Town Hall.
Okay.
And I know I'm welcome the other commissioners' comments. The only one that I would add is that if you could work with the town, I mean, we've got two really good guys sitting right there in the front row, and
Oh,
talk
yes, well,
about
yeah.
a long-term plan for
Yes.
Old Town Hall, which may involve changing the siding.
Yes.
Which may be, I know there's been other historical sidings that have been attached to that building.
Right, yeah.
That is something that becomes just that in the end reduces the maintenance, keeps the historical integrity of it. I'd love to have a long-term plan, and then the town could work with you on the long-term funding goals
Well,
for it
that's
as
it.
well.
We can't
So-
look at the whole long-term picture unless we have long-term financial help.
Right.
Right.
And I think we could go hand in hand with that.
Okay.
And I know
Well,
that,
I'm talking to you and Wade to talk about, let's look at the town hall, and even, the John Poole House, that's an integral part of our history too.
Sure.
And we still have some money left from the grant from last year. We used it for the roof, but I'm looking also at redoing sprucing up the John Poole House. Knight and I met with Jeff and Billy Willard and Jim Clifford a couple weeks ago, talking about, the Clifford project, et cetera, and how they want to help us put, different walkways in there. So I already have a mason that we've been using at the old Seneca Schoolhouse. We're going to put a very nice old brick walkway from Coxon Lane, because right now the sidewalk is all deteriorated, from there to the front of the John Poole House. And then we're cutting a lot of dead trees down from the backyard of the John Poole House, because I want to make that whole, the herb garden there much prettier, shall I say, because we're trying to have more fundraisers this summer, and we're working again with locals, having some of their clients want to have parties over to our place. So that's what I'm going to use the rest of the money we have from last year's amount to work on the John Poole House, and whatever money we have left to do a little bit more work at the old town hall. That is our long-term goals from now. When we look at the picture and sit down, what has to be done.
great, Wade's given me you just created a budget line item look. Whatever that is, that's fine.
No, I think we need to take a comprehensive look at the building, prioritize it, come up with scope of project on what should happen in certain order, get a big
Yeah.
picture of it, maybe
Let's
a
help-
budget
let's help
planned
them
out,
do that,
And
yeah.
then looking for bigger grants with the state also to help out, because that's gonna
Okay.
be a lot of money to fund all the way around.
Well, as we know too, if we establish budget line items, it helps establish that pathway
Okay,
towards
that would be
different
great.
funding
We can all
avenues.
look at the building and come up with a long-term plan. And HMD would be very appreciative of any help you could give us.
You're not talking about paving Jeff's driveway, are you? Is that part of this? No?
No,
Okay.
I'm not getting so lucky. That's another, I'll bring that up on
Yeah, go
another
ahead.
grant application.
That's
Yeah, oh, really? Okay, yeah.
And again, I just want to say, I'm Jeff Welsh. Many of the commissioners, I know you.
Do you guys, people in the audience know who this guy is?
Uh-oh.
Jeff owns the old brick building that's right behind Old Town Hall. So, and a beautiful house, and Jeff, and very, very tolerant of all of our efforts that are taking place on the historic West End.
Right.
So go ahead, Jeff.
And I would just add to what Maureen had said is, again, thanks to the town and the management of the town. You guys have been excellent partners for both myself as property owner and as a member of the HMD board. I think we all want the same thing, which is, again, to continue to improve the attractiveness of our beautiful town. And part of that is with the John Poole House and the Old Town Bank and Old Town Hall property being such icons of the town. So it's difficult to do that without the support of our local government and certainly our patrons here, in town, the good taxpayers. So we very much appreciate all the support, and we try to be good stewards, again, working with you to make sure that, we're not turning it into a resort over there, but again, we have a lot of new customers and potential visitors in those two areas just because of the development of locals, the reopening of Bassett's. I mean, that, even with the pool, with our friends here at the pool, there's a lot of downtown traffic that we have not had in the past, and that's
Right.
exactly, I think, what is part of the mission statement of what the town wants. So thank you very much.
And I think I was kind of pleasantly surprised that, because, when COVID started, we had to shut down all of our in-person activities, et cetera, and we had no funds coming in. But then when a lot of the restrictions were lifted this past year, we could get more into, like Heritage Days, Poolsville Day, people coming into it. And even when we couldn't have in-person things, I think we kept our name, HMD, and our properties through Zoom meetings, through different meetings we have with people, not in person. And I saw the results of it this year, that we had more donations this year than we ever had. And I think because the more they see that we're doing for the town, to make it, the beautiful town that we all want to keep going, they appreciate that. So I'm pleased where we're going.
I totally agree. Totally agree. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you very much for your information. And not too long ago, I was in the John Poole House, and I remembered walking from Coxon Avenue, which is kind of doesn't really exist anymore.
My driveway.
But yeah, your driveway. Yeah. Up to the front door, and the sidewalk is completely disappeared. And you gotta walk through.
It's gone.
You gotta walk through the mud. Yeah. So I like the idea very much of
Yeah.
having
It's going to be old
the
brick.
kind of the antique bricks or whatever it is,
Yes,
have a
it
nice
is,
clean
yeah.
pathway into the front door instead of walking in with muddy shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, with Chamber of Commerce, is Tom, we recently had a meeting in the Old Town Hall.
Oh,
And
right,
I hadn't
yeah.
been in the Old Town Hall for ages and ages, and I was, wow, this place needs a lot of attention.
It does.
And the giant door on the vault, of course, it's very difficult to move, so I don't think
Yeah.
a child could move it anyway. But there's also really, I don't know if it's faded or it's been painted over, the artwork on the front of the vault door.
No, that's an interesting story, because it's the reason why it looks faded, because I forget how many years ago, that was totally painted black. So
Oh.
we worked on it to get that picture. That was what so it's faded because it was under black paint for
Oh.
years and years and
Oh.
years.
What does it say again, Maureen? I
Pardon me?
remember. What does it say again? What does this say? What does it say on there? It said,
The
what does it
painting
say?
on the front.
The painting, it's a picture, I think, of the bank, isn't it?
I guess.
I
I thought there
think
was
it
some
was-
words too.
It was artwork of the
Artwork.
time,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It looked fascinating.
Look or something like
It was
that.
difficult to make out, but look, whatever is there.
That's right, name of the old bank.
Is
Yeah.
fascinating, yeah.
Yeah, right, that's.
And then you could clearly see that, I guess there were some changes made in years past and then undone. And you could clearly see just where things were kind of sawed off by the upper windows that face locals, on the local side.
That's
So
the
you-
old, it's a long story there, Jeff, there was
Yeah.
a floor,
Yeah.
people have been around a long time, there was a floor built in, you all used to meet up on that top floor, that was the town hall
Oh,
back
oh,
in the sixties and seventies and the eighties. And they had built the floor in, and then when Historic Medley took the building back, they pulled it back to its original configuration.
Yeah, I'd love to see that
Whole
really
history,
restored.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's gorgeous, yeah, or it could be.
So with your help, we'll try to bring it back to its former glory. Okay?
We appreciate your stewardship. Any other questions for these guys? No?
Just say that thanks for being here and thanks for what you do. And I think that leveraging our historical assets is an important part of economic development and the charm of the town. I think it's an important. Jim always uses the word spokes, like it's an important spoke in the wheel. And so, thanks for keeping it up. And we're probably able to do more grant research now, having an assistant town manager too. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Plus,
Cool.
you
Keep
just,
sending people to Niles.
just the whole idea of the line item, that's the key.
Yeah, that's fine too.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, very good. Is that it?
That's it.
Thank you. So let me
Thank you
see if I
very
got
much.
this right. It's rebuild town hall swim team. Can you go with just popsicles instead of ice cream? And Scott in the back, how about sparklers instead of the fireworks show? No? Okay. Well, we'll stick with the grant request as is. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, Maureen. Very good. Good stuff. All right. Next up is the fire chief, Scott Graham. He's going to come talk to us about fireworks on July 4th for the town. Scott, thanks for being up here tonight. Thanks again for your proposal that we circulated this afternoon.
All right, thank you, Jim. So the grant proposal that we placed before you all is something that is very important not only to the town, but also to us as a fire department. For years, we've been supporting and sponsoring the annual 4th of July fireworks down at the Polo Grounds off of Hughes Road. Last year, we were probably one of the only shows in town because of the hard work of the town and the volunteer fire department and some of our community support. And after last year's contract, we met with Zambelli Brothers, who is our contractor, and they told us that there would be significant increases in the costs of our fireworks displays going forward. And we usually sign a 3-year contract. The contract is, as it was in your proposal or in the MOA request today, shows us going from $22,000 to $29,000 after year 3 in 2025. For us to sustain this activity, we do want to have a commitment from the town for that 3-year contract. We cannot maintain the volunteer-owned apparatus, our volunteer-owned property, while we do receive support from the county for our staffing and our frontline apparatus. We still have responsibility for support apparatus, et cetera. So we are requesting from the town a grant or an MOA for a 3-year period at $30,000 per year for each of the next 3 years. The reason that we want to enter into it in a formal agreement is that the corporation, the Upper Montgomery Fire Department, would feel more comfortable from a financial perspective to be able to say, yes, we at least have the cost of the fireworks covered moving forward. As you'll see in the proposal we sent forth today, there's a lot of other logistical support and things that we will ultimately, the fire department will ultimately end up covering that. We'll do that by incrementally taking things, say, from this year, the parking, and we'll put that back in an account to be able to make up that delta over the next 2 years after this year. So I will entertain any questions about the proposal. We met with Commissioner Brown about 2 weeks ago, and one of the things I suggested to him is I was running special operations for the Kemper Open, the U.S. Open, Senior U.S. Open, and one of the things I was always amazed with Montgomery County is they had an economic development tent at that activity, and they would invite in anybody who would be potential either stores, businesses, activity, tourism, agritourism, whatever. So I had mentioned to Commissioner Brown that we would be, under our proposal, we would be willing to carve out like a 20 by 30, 20 by 40 area that would be dedicated to the town of Poolesville for you all to use as an economic development activity. Whether you're trying to lure X, Y, or Z, whether we want to promote something that we're already doing, maybe mention the fact that by then the ferry will be open, so I won't say that. But, if there's anything that you want to promote or attract to here, it's an excellent opportunity for you all to do that, whether it's county officials, businesses, or whatever. So each of the next 3 years, we'll carve out that area so that you can especially invite people and their families to come up to the activity. So, okay. I'll entertain any questions.
Scott, so thank you for the presentation, first of all. Thanks for the detailed, you didn't have to essentially open your books for us, but I asked them to anyway because I wanted to see if there was a fundraising component for this that the town is somehow participating in. That's not the case. We're basically helping them cover the costs for the event that they put on for the town. They steward the event. They obviously set up all the logistics. It's not cheap. The money is going up every single year, so they're asking for a steady commitment from us, and that which means that they're going to carry a heavier burden as time goes on. It's not cheap, but they also too, and we talked about this when we met. Zambelli is one of the best, and they're one of the best because they actually do what they say they're going to do. And they don't have a history of not showing. They don't have a history of the fireworks blowing up ahead of time. They're extremely well run. We don't have much margin for error here in Poolesville, so if there's something were to go wrong, it could go wrong very quickly, stretch the resources of the fire department. They do a great job of working with Zambelli. And I think the whole reason why the guys brought me in was to help me be more aware, because I've probably questioned in the past, and my apologies if I've done that, Scott, questioned in the past exactly how the process works in terms of the fireworks. So they put together a detailed proposal. It's been extended to everybody here. They're going to be looking for a commitment for that money ahead of time because FY24 starts for us on July 1, and there's supposed to be fireworks 3 days later. They're supposed to be paid for. When do you guys
We'll
pay?
need to sign the contract by the end of February.
By the end of
for the next
February.
3 years.
Okay. So I'm not sure what that does for us on this side in terms of trying to create some level of commitment here.
We're going to take a vote.
And would that have to be an amendment that would have potentially come through our unrestricted reserves? Or this is a line item that we've used in the past?
No, so the money,
I got you.
the money will be in place for the FY '24. You're making the commitment for it now, if he wants a signed contract.
I think that's the only way you're going to do it, is to come up with the MOU that we're talking about, which would be the only way you could encumber multi-years, because there'd be a contractual obligation that then you'd fund in the other years. I get your problem is that you would be wanting to spend the money in the current fiscal year that's not
Yes.
appropriated right now.
And we usually don't pay that fireworks bill until July 7th or whatever, or maybe it's the day.
Well, and that's
It's in the next fiscal year.
That's been one of the problems is
Oh,
because,
okay.
you know, we fronted it. And as you can see, we've just built an addition to the fire station, which we're still paying for, to increase the capacity for us to respond to water rescues and tankers and the water supply that we don't have up here. So we're putting, you know, several $100,000 into that. So the ability for us to write a check, you know, on July 7th to pay for back here, the membership felt more comfortable with having that commitment up front. We can meet offline about what that would exactly be if there's a partial payment for this year to sign the contract, and then we would receive it after your fiscal year starts. We can work
We can do
offline
it
on
either way.
that.
If you have a deadline, you
Right.
can meet, just let us know.
Okay,
We can-
yep,
we
and
can-
I'll circle back with Commissioner Brown, and you can circulate that to the town staff.
And then, can we just post-date that check? You know, right? That's how it works in my checking account. I don't know.
We can-
Jay just shakes his head. He's like, okay, that's enough.
Gather the information and put it on the next agenda.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. So Scott, if we gather our information, we'll get something from staff regarding how we would handle this. You guys can confer. And then it's something that we can talk about in our next meeting, and assuming the vote of the body moves forward with that at that meeting, then that could be enough to work within the time frame.
That's fine, yeah, we'll work together on it.
Okay,
Can I
good.
Yes, ma'am.
Ask a question. Just wondering if you have any sense of how many, I don't know, I guess it would be cars are in attendance
So
at these?
we estimated last year just under 3,000 people were in attendance. And I think it's second only to Poolesville Day with that. And we last
What's your
year-
capacity? Were you nearing capacity?
We'll keep packing them in as far as we can. But, you know, when you have 500 to 700 cars in that
Yeah.
parking area,
Yeah.
because we have a very strict fallout area, so we try to squeeze it in as much as we can. We'll be offering a couple of other options this year with, if you're familiar with the hunt races, how they sell along the fence line. So we'll have some areas there along the fence line, which will cause us some more parking areas that we're gonna need to do. So our capacity for vehicles will be between 500 and 700 vehicles. So if you take that average of 4 or 5 people per vehicle, you know, you're looking at 300 to 3,500 spectators.
Okay, great, thank
Weather
you.
dependent, too.
So we have the rain date, you know, we'll go July 5, you know, if it's not the 4th, it'll be the 5th, and that's in our contract with us.
And there was some thought about July 3rd moving to July 4th, but
Yeah.
you guys decide that's not going to be in the cards.
Right, everybody
Yeah.
is off on the 4th, they're probably gonna take that 3rd for the long weekend anyway, so.
Jay?
Do you have an MOU that you're thinking about? Or do you?
So most of the work that we do on grants and projects within the fire service is done by an MOU or an MOA, whereas we will provide an urban search and rescue team, for FEMA. And that
Right.
MOA is a guaranteed amount of money each year, so I can give you a copy of that.
Something
if
you're
you wanna take a
comfortable
look at
with.
it. Yeah, it's
And
probably
that-
not gonna be as extensive as that one.
Right.
But a 1 or 2 pager.
But something you're comfortable with maybe
Absolutely.
bullet points of things you want in the new one, and then
I'll
we can go
follow
from
up and
there.
shoot that over to you.
Okay.
Anything from the commissioners? Town staff under control on this?
Thank you very much.
Scott, thanks
Thank you all
again.
very
and-
much. We appreciate you.
And thanks for all the work. And Jeff, your work too, behind the scenes on this one. We appreciate it. Thank you. All right, very good. Anybody that's still here that wants to leave, you stick around for the rest of the meeting. I'm never trying to keep people in place. Like when Maureen tried to lock me in the vault, trying to talk about money last time we were there.
Get to the money.
That's right. It was all good. Okay, so this goes to town staff. Wastewater treatment plant replacement, budget amendment, and award.
Good evening. We had a bid opening on January 12th at 11 o'clock. We had 3 bidders. Dynamic General Contracting came in at $185,000. Vertex Roofing came in at $192,945. And St. Mary's Roofing and Home Repairs, LLC, came in at $261,580. We've discussed the project with the president of Dynamic General Contracting. They understand the project. They know what the project is. This is to replace the roof and also the mansard roof, which some people don't know what a mansard roof is. That's the portion that wraps around a portion of the building. And they understood the contract very clearly. So we recommend the following. That to Dynamic General Contracting, you award the sum of $185,000. We also recommend on this particular project a 10% contingency fee for unforeseen conditions, because we're not sure what the wood is going to look like underneath that mansard roof. Of $18,500, and we recommend an establishment of a budget of 2.5% for engineering and administration services. That brings the total cost to $208,125.
Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
I just had a question, because it's been a while since I was in the wastewater treatment plant, and I know this is for the roof, but is there any consideration for interior repairs? Because I remember in the area where they were doing the measurements.
The testing area. Yeah.
Testing
Two
area,
separate
yeah.
issues that we'll address differently in the budget.
Yeah.
The roof has to be completed first before we do anything inside, obviously.
Okay,
But-
okay.
But it'll be addressed on another line item, different contractor, everything.
Different type of work.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Strong.
Very good. Anybody else questions for John Strong on this?
There's Dynamic General Contracting in place. You have references on them. They do good work.
Excellent work.
Good.
I checked, they do a lot of institutional work, and I spoke with a bunch of different colleges, and they just glowed about them.
Oh, great.
2 questions for you, John. One is, and I saw you a bunch of times today, so I don't mean to just put you on the spot now.
Sure.
Could have asked this earlier. Can we reveal what the money was last year when we were talking about doing this? I know that we delayed doing this in order
It
to
was
hopefully
like
save a
around-
few bucks.
It was around $350,000 for the
Yeah.
lowest bidder.
Holy snikes, that's a lot.
Yeah. Well, there was a supply chain bust.
Situation.
Yeah.
So, glad we waited. Yes, that was very, very smart move. Thank you, guys.
As you're seeing in a couple of days, that's why we waited on several projects. Actually, some projects were just ready to happen as COVID hit, and they were just put on hold because nobody was doing work. And then we got back into the market again. All of a sudden, the prices were out of sight. So now all these projects are coming forward, and every one of them are going to need a budget amendment of some sort.
Right.
Okay, so that's the challenge we're going to face as we're putting this next budget together also, we talked about today. In this particular one, we have $152,000 currently in the budget line item for this project. So we need to supplement, transfer $56,000 from unrestricted reserves to supplement this project and make it happen. And I laid out the details of exactly how much we have in those accounts, what our policy is, and everything, so it's, we do the budget amendment first, if you're fine with the project, and then we'll award the contract.
What budget year is this? Is this fiscal year '24?
This will be 23.
Oh, cool.
Right now, so all the projects all stack up as we get into summer stuff. So John and I, we sat down last year, we said, in December and January, we're putting all the specs together. We're taking all our projects to bid to be the first in the queue as people are starting to go back to work, and it's actually worked out luckily, so.
Let this be as a primer as when we start talking about trash.
Oh, gosh.
That's going to be something else. Anyway, you guys, look, I appreciate the smart move on holding off. I'm glad we've got a much cheaper price on this. I'm sorry we have to dip into unrestricted reserves. That's what we have them for, though. So the order of things needs to be that we need to have a motion to move, how much money is it there?
56,000?
208, 125?
Exactly.
So make a motion for the movement of those unrestricted reserves to go towards the, this contract, whatever you want to call this. What do you want to call this?
Just wastewater roof project.
Wastewater
That is the line item in the
wastewater treatment
budget.
plant roof project.
56 what?
$56,216.
I make a motion, we transfer $56,216 out of unrestricted funds for the, towards contract 100.034 for roof replacement of the wastewater treatment plant. Does that work?
Good job. That's perfect. Okay, we have a motion. Anybody want to have a second? You don't have to repeat the motion.
Sure, I'll second his motion.
Second from Ed. Any other conversation on this? None? All those in favor of making that motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Okay, great. Thank you
So,
for that. Next
ready
up,
for me?
if you're ready, I'm ready.
I make a motion, we award contract 100.034 roof replacement of the wastewater treatment plant to Dynamic General Contracting.
Very good.
Sure, I'll second the motion.
Second from Ed. Motion from Martin, second from Ed. All in favor of awarding that contract as stated, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None?
Did I say that right? Do we need to, because
I think you
the
did.
total amount is 208,125. Do I need to make?
Transferring the 56,000 on top of the 152 gives it that,
Good,
so we're good.
thank you.
Yeah, I think you had it.
All right, good.
Okay, that motion's been made, seconded and approved by a 5-0 vote. Good to go there, guys, on that one?
Yes, sir.
Brightwell bond release, who's next?
It's a marathon.
That's right, we're gonna rip right through them, doing the
Yep.
people's business as quickly as we can, but efficiently.
All right. This closes out the existing bonds that can be closed out, and not a maintenance bond. This is for grading in Section 2.5, Comfort Court, for the Brightwell Crossing subdivision. And it releases bond number 4736 at the sum of $40,863. The work was done in accordance with general engineering standards, and we recommend release of that bond.
Very good. So, what was the grading going on? Was that just the final grade of Comfort Court and paving?
Yeah, well, it's actually just a grading of the ground, and I would have gotten caught last go-round, but
Right.
I had some questions that need to be resolved.
Okay, I was wondering. I know we've talked about this before.
Yep.
Okay, very good. I appreciate the recommendation. Town staff, anything else on that? Nope. Commissioners, questions? Can someone make a motion?
Oh, my turn.
Go for it.
I make a motion to release $40,863 of bond number 4736 for the Comfort Court grading.
Great, good motion. Second? Whose turn? Sarah?
Second the motion.
Sarah has given us the second. We have a motion by Jeff, second by Sarah. Any other questions on that motion? All those in favor of the Brightwell bond release, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Motion passes 5-0. The bond's released. Thanks John, for your testimony on that. Appreciate it. PFAS, remediation, budget amendment. Wade Yost, give it to us.
Okay, well, our team's been hard at work, looking at different options for treating the PFAS, going through the test parameters necessary by MDE. working with MDE to figure out, what's the best way to approach this, and we're kind of like paving the way in Maryland here for that to happen. It's not a common thing. So we've kind of narrowed it down to, and Kathy Mims been a big part of it, to a company, Tetrasolve, and they have a carbon-based, virgin carbon-based filtration system that will remove the PFAS. So what we want to do is do a pilot test to prove that it works. So they have actual vessels. They're 8 foot tall, 120 inches wide. It's dual vessels. They work in series. I mean, it goes through one, which captures all of it, and then it goes to the other one. So if you have a breakthrough on the first one, then it's time to test, to change out the filtration, while the second one's removing the PFAS. Right now, we don't really know how long it's going to take. With the volume of water we're going to put through it, anywhere from 6 months to the year which is not a really close guess, but the closer we can get right now until we actually physically do it. The rental is $5,000 a month for the units themselves. The media, once we do it anyways and purchase the filters, which are very expensive, it's $17,000 just for the initial fill for the media. So we want to determine how long is this going to take. Hopefully it'll last at least a year or 2 years. And we did the same thing with the alpha emitter filtration units that we established for well 9 and 7 and 10. And we find out now those every 5 years, we swap out the media, and it doesn't really even have a breakthrough. We're swapping it out beforehand. Just because if it accumulates too much, it's much more expensive to dispose of it. So there's a charge for the freight in the skid rental return once we're done with the tests. So we really don't know what to test. So what I've done, I set up a budget to get us at least to finish out this fiscal year. And that's gonna cover the price of rental units to do the pilot studies. It's gonna cover John's time, Kathy's time, extra water sampling we have to do. And then I have a building addition in here and a price on that, but that's just going to be a temporary structure that we put up around these filters for now to make sure they work before we really invest money into it. We've also applied for grants already, but those grants will not be released until next spring. So getting reimbursed for this money here is going to be very difficult just because we're actually acting too fast for MDE, which is, it's just strange, but that's just the way it's rolling out here. It is. I mean, it really is. Also, doing this test allows us to put this water back into the system, and that's twofold. It helps with our water supply, and we know it's going to be clean. It also allows the migration of this PFAS. It inhibits that from happening. So right now, we are pumping the well a little bit, 4 or 5 hours a day, into a storm drain just to let it go down, just to keep this migration from not occurring with the PFAS. This is just well 3. Well 2 is offline, and we're looking at this, whatever media works for 3, most likely will work for 2 also. So if we need to establish a budget of $95,000, that's just to get us to the end of the year, and then we'll address the rest of it and how it's, it's going to flesh out as far as next fiscal year. It could be. But hopefully by $500,000 between the two of them, we should be able to do it. So.
I just had a couple of questions, because you mentioned that we're maybe the first ones. Does that kind of imply that other municipalities have not, maybe they haven't tested, or maybe they haven't found?
There's different categories. So I know there's some smaller places that I've seen, like HOAs and stuff, that do have some filtration units on them. But if you're smaller, there's different sizes, and you have to meet different thresholds for different sizes. So as far as municipalities goes, I asked MDE the question when we had the meeting. They said they don't know of anybody, at least our group didn't know of anybody that was even submitting them yet.
Oh,
So-
okay.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
What?
Well, I was talking, I had a conversation last night with a supplier, and they're getting hammered right and left, so.
Oh.
A lot of other municipalities are evidently.
Finding things now.
Right. And we did a
Another
smart
quick-
thing. You saw in the news, there was a couple municipalities that were named for not sending out the Tier 2 notice to their people once they were notified by MDE. And so, we've taken all the right steps and approaching it correctly.
Well, one other thing is, on $12,000 on the page with the picture on it, the GAC, I assume that means granulated activated charcoal.
Yes, it
How
is.
frequently do they have to replace that? Does change out mean replace it?
It does, and that's what we're going to find out. That's what the pilot test really is going to tell us.
Oh,
Is
how
it-
frequently
so
we
It
need
could be
to-
a 6 month, it could be a year, it could be 3 years.
Oh, I see.
So, yeah, we really don't know yet.
Remember what he said about the other media that we've installed in the alpha remitter? That it turned out, we thought, I think our initial thought was going to be months, and it's turned out to be years that you can get out of the filtration system before you have to switch out the media.
Right.
Plus, it's expensive to switch it out, so you try and go as long as you can.
Is there any, and I know that maybe the pie in the sky sort of thing, but is there any possibility of getting, if this works, to getting a system big enough for all of Poolsville's wells?
Well, it's much more difficult than that because we have a loop system. So what it means that each well independently feeds into all the mains into the water tower. So they all come on and they all go through all the pipes and fills up the water tower and then goes back down. So everybody's getting different water in different places of town.
Right.
So you'd have to have all the wells going to one place without going to any houses to create a central treatment area. And so you'd have to tear up every main and street and repipe every well.
But you couldn't put one of these at each well?
Oh, you could put one of those at each well, yes.
Oh.
Yes. I thought you meant just one large enough.
Well,
So far,
yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, just sort of an aside, like, I have a feeling that, you know, it's good that we're gonna be early adopters, because I have a feeling there's gonna be a huge shortage on these kind of parts.
It's happening already. He said there's a 40%
I've seen it, like, in
increase.
household ones.
Yeah.
I mean, I was telling you, that company Berkey that makes,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
tabletop ones, completely, every single product sold out, every single filter sold out, so.
There's already been a 40% increase in the media since it all kind of broke out in, I guess, June, July-ish timeframe.
John, give us your.
Engineering, what's the phrase? I was thinking the solution to pollution is dilution, but that's the one you normally claim right now. That's okay. Do it is another good one, a little shorthand for that. I appreciate that. Wade shaking his head at me. Okay, very good. So Wade, thank you for the presentation on that. Jay, anything else from your end on it?
Well, you know, you're part of the litigation, and so the litigation is still, you know, nationwide litigation is still ongoing. You're going to need to solve the problem, pay for the problem. The litigation will reimburse you at some point in time with some sort of money, but that's not a solution for anything short-term. And you are ahead of all the other, I mean, I'm handling the Maryland litigation part. All the other towns that you know of, they're still coming to grasp with the fact that they have an issue. They're at that stage, so.
That is awful tough and understood, and the Frederick News Post has been pretty merciless. I've been reading their articles on some of the other Frederick County municipalities. That's pretty tough stuff. So anyway, commissioners, please just read up on it. You can Google it, Maryland PFAS, and you can see what people are up to. So it's out there. All right, so Wade, appreciate the background. John, Jay, everybody good on that. What do we need from here? Here comes some official writing that someone's going to have to read. Okay, hang on. Right, so do you want to do this?
Sure.
It's right there. Yeah, that's it.
I make a motion to establish a PFAS redemption line item in CIP account 3130 and transfer $95,000 from unrestricted reserves account.
Here we go. Motion's been made. Do we have a second? Anybody else want to read it or look at it again?
I'm looking at it right here.
Okay, very good.
Second motion.
Great. We have a motion from Martin. We have a second. It is to establish a PFAS remediation line item in CIP account 3130 and transfer $95,000 from the unrestricted reserves account. Motion, second's been made. Any other questions? Jeff?
I'm just curious, how much money is in the unrestricted reserves account? Do you know?
It was in a memo that you have right in front of you, Jim. It's a little over 1.1 million.
Oh, yeah, I see it. You're right.
The town recommends that we have 17%,
Yeah.
which comes to, what's our unrestricted reserves declared
795.
minimum?
It's right around $795,000 is what we.
Yeah, I see it, it's right here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Got it. Very good. Okay, good. So, Jeff, good question. All right, we have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Great. Motion passes 5-0. Town staff, everybody, thanks for your work on that one. I appreciate it. Town manager's report.
Yes, this morning, we had our first official budget work session with Jim, Niles, and myself. We've talked offline several times, and Niles and I have had several meetings about the budget so far. And really, it was talking about all these projects coming forward, and we're going to have a challenging year funding all the stuff that's been thrown at us. Next meeting, you're also going to have more people coming asking for money. All expenditures have gone up, from chemicals at the wastewater plant, water plants, to the community events. They're asking for more money this year. Fair Access wanted more money. So quite a bit of challenges. We're still collecting our revenue information. We get notifications from the state as far as tax funds and different things like that. So by mid-February, we'll have a lot of good handle on most of that stuff, and have a draft budget working together that we can probably meet with Jim at least once, maybe 2 more times prior to getting the budget to you guys. So we should probably think about scheduling a first work session. Typically do that in March on a Saturday. March 11th is an open date. If you guys want to take a look, we can email it around, whatever you want to do with that.
If everybody wants to check their calendars right now, see what you got going on. March 11th, we set it up as a tentative time period, start at 9 a.m.
Plan on a few hours of talking about it. The budget will be circulated to everybody prior to, but this is our chance to really, we break down line by line and talk about what we've done so far. And I can tell you this up front, just even after today's initial meeting, we're basically just scribing in things. There's no decisions that have been made. Nothing's been, this is going to be a wide open conversation about both current budget, out years, et cetera. And it's a budget unlike one I've been associated with before. We're definitely going to be making some moves on it, and it's going to be good stuff.
I can do the 11th.
Yeah, I can do 11.
Yep, same here.
11th.
Yeah.
Everybody works?
What time?
9 a.m.
Yeah, I'd like to start at 9 unless you guys want to go earlier. Not that I'm going to show up then, but.
So up at 9:10. I'll pencil in 9:10.
That's cold. That's cold. You guys don't have to have me. You don't have to have me. All right, yeah. Oh, you're telling me 8:45, is that what we said? All right, good stuff. 8:50, all right. 9 o'clock is when it is. I'm going to write it down, 8:50.
Is it a done deal with doing it?
You guys are good, you're good for that? Niles? Good? Okay. All right, that's our day then. Let's plan on it. Budget work session. Hopefully by then we'll have a lot of the variables behind us, and we'll see what those numbers really look like.
Yep.
Okay, thanks. You're up next.
Okay, happy to say all 700 plus, by 726 of our streetlights are all now LED. We don't have any more sodiums and mercury vapors or anything out there. We are in the process of still converting the bills to the LED rate that we were the first ones in Maryland to establish with the Public Service Commission back in 2007, I think it was. But First Energy hasn't changed over the billing rate, so once they do, we're going to see a significant savings. It comes from like $13 per light per month down to about $6 per light per month. So that'll be nice. And the maintenance costs are also going to go down because the LED bulbs, they last a lot longer. You have to do a switch out every probably 5 to 7 years. But other than that, that's a good deal. And the total project cost was $204,000, and we received $92,000 in grants from the Maryland Energy Administration. So that was a nice kick in for us. Spoke with Congressman Trone's office. He'll be hosting a webinar for the appropriations process for the streetscape project. That's going to be in end of March, and Niles, Bobby, and I will all sit in on that one there. The exact parameters of a bidding process, what we have to go through, how do we submit invoices, and just the logistics of everything.
When can we expect to break ground on that?
Well, we had to find out this stuff first of how we can, what we're supposed to do, what our requirements are. But we are doing the surveying of every single property along Fisher Avenue to get a good handle on exactly what's what.
Great.
Let's see, Rick Davidson and his crew were out on Saturday, a nice cold day. They had a water main break on Soper and Wooten. Took care of it and had them back online. They made it home by around 8 o'clock in the evening, so that was, at least they weren't up all night working. And that's always the time when the guy fights to get in the hole, because it's always warmer down in the hole than it is up on top. Wastewater plant's underway, construction, the concrete was being poured for the new buildings today. And you've probably not seen it, Sarah. And Ed, if you guys made a tour, we should probably, at some point, talk about that, especially since we'll start talking about some of the budget stuff. Maybe see a well house, see the wastewater plant. I mean, just be exposed to it to see kind of what it is. You've done it before, Martin, right? So,
Twice, yeah.
yeah.
I'd go again though, if, you know.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that, okay. And that's all I have, any questions?
I have a question, because you mentioned that it triggered my mind to ask about the denitrification filter. Is that
That's what they're pouring right now,
being
yep.
built now?
Yep.
Oh,
Well,
swell.
that, one of the structures was poured
Yeah, I
today.
use the word filter, but it's a whole building.
It's the buildings, there's 3 buildings.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Anything else? Go
Make a
ahead.
motion, we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, second? It's the fastest motion in the West. Second from Ed. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, we're adjourned, thanks.